Guys, welcome back. Today we're going to do a review for Requiem for Dracula, issue number 1 by Marvel Comics. This is a reprint, a one-shot if you will. This is a, two comics rolled into one from Tomb of Dracula, volume 196 and issue 70. It rolls it all up. For me, this is the best Dracula because it's been drawn by Gene Colan and written by Mark Wolfman. I think these two guys are the best. They have incredible chemistry with each other when it comes to storytelling and, putting visual on paper. And this sums it all up. This is a great comic. I had a really fun time with it. Marvel, once in a while they are trying to, release a character and make it into a series. And when mostly comics from Marvel is, superhero based or even, like say, anti-heroes like the Punisher, that really works well. They also did it with Dracula, but Dracula is not a anti-hero. He is evil personified. He is a monster. He's the ultimate Lord of the Vampires. He's Dracula. And although he did some quote-unquote good things in the comics, but eventually he is still a vampire. He still does terrible things to people. So, yeah, I love Dracula. I mean, this version of Dracula. I don't know what Marvel did with the modern-day Dracula. He looks like that guy from The Witcher, white hair, totally unrecognizable. This is the ultimate Dracula, in my opinion. So let's quickly dive in. So, Dracula is being chased by other bats, other vampires, because it seems that he is, once upon a time, not so long ago in this comic, he lost his vampire powers, has been taken away by Satan. He got it back, but in the meantime, another vampire became Lord of the Vampire. They want to kill Dracula because he's a horrible creature. So he tries to escape them. He, does that partially, but also we have another storyline in a village. This is around Transylvania, I believe, when the mother who lost her first kid, her husband, and now possibly this one too, and the child is sick and needs help. So she goes away and leaves her other children temporarily behind, and she says, "Do not open the door for anything." She gives them a crucifix because these people here, they all know this is the land of the vampires. They never be safe. This land is just cursed for them. Dracula trying to flee. His powers are waning. I'm going to skip you a few pages. So he eventually comes across a sanctuary, a cottage. And that's the house of this woman. And he taps on the door and he needs to, get in otherwise he's going to die. So what I love about Dracula, he's always very direct. He screams and yells and he's very pompous, if you will. And he demands that the people let him in. So, but the kids have no idea what they are up to. So they are taking Dracula in. And but somehow, I don't know what's going on, but these kids cannot see or recognize that he is basically a vampire, although his face, says it all. They still want to help him survive. But then the mother gets rescued by Quincy Harker with Frank Drake and Rachel Van Helsing. They are basically hunting Dracula. So they're taking her to the hospital and the kid is being treated. But in the meantime, the vampire bats is flapping and there's a terrible sound and they want to, escape it. But Dracula, weirdly enough, doesn't attack the children, doesn't kill them, doesn't, feed on them, although he is poorly drained of blood and he needs sustenance. He actually, in his way, protects the children somehow. And he says, you need to pray for your God. You need to use the crucifix to keep these creatures out, these creatures of the dead. And what the remaining vampires do is, you know, they are, well, what's the word I'm looking for? They are sending the rats to Dracula to drag him out because they cannot enter the home, because you only can enter a house when you are invited. And I just love those classic lore and classic weaknesses from vampires. Nowadays, vampires can do anything. They can walk in daylight. They can walk anywhere. And they have no weakness for garlic or whatever, or crosses. I don't get it. I mean, if you have a good monster or protagonist, you have to give them weaknesses. And the same goes for the good guys, in my opinion. So, Dracula, you know, protects them. But, you know, it doesn't really help, because somehow they still manage to attack Dracula and even the children. But then Dracula does something. He grabs a cross and walks outside, although his hands are burning. And then he flies away. But also the other vampires are being, you know, scared that they are going to die, because when you are touched by a cross, somehow you just, you know, die as a vampire. So they are fleeing back to the new Lord of the Vampires. And Dracula is chasing them. And what's cool about it, that he is doing that in mist form, but also, I'm not sure how that works, he can still hold the cross while in mist form. So that's weird. So the other vampires, you know, gathering somewhere in Transylvania to, I don't know, maybe a graveyard or something. And then Dracula wants to command the other vampires that attacked him. And but also says, I want to see Torgo. Torgo is the new vampire lord. And I love it that Dracula, or this Dracula, is always taunting, how do you say, people. He's insulting them. And Mark Wolfman did a very great job making him really a piece of shit. And because everything he says is with, you know, with venom, if you know what I mean. So he says, tell this peasant Torso Dracula demands to see him. But it seems that, you know, these people are former vampire slaves, doesn't do what, you know, the Lord of the Vampire, or former Lord of the Vampire wants. So they even, you know, belittle him by saying that he abandoned them. He says, you walk with humans, you marry humans, you forsook Transylvania and left us with a leader. And one of the the vampire woman says, Torgo is a vampire, Dracula, a true vampire. But look at you. You can't even carry the damnable crucifix like a human. Look at what you've become. And then Dracula says, so the crucifix, I had forgotten. It's true. Without thinking, I held into it. But then realizing that, the crucifix, you know, burns him again. And so he throws away the crucifix. So could be that he, I don't know, just, he wasn't vulnerable anymore. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it's an after thing because his battle with Satan. I'm not entirely sure. Torgo comes and he commands that Dracula would kneel before him. But Dracula doesn't want to do that because he says, are you a fool, Torgo? I am your master. It has ever been so. So shall it ever be. But then, since he is now the true Lord of the Vampires, he can command Dracula. And Dracula actually bows and against his will. And he doesn't know what's happening to them because Dracula is royalty. You know, he's born of royal blood. And all these people, all of these vampires, every being is in his eyes beneath him. And that's why I love him. He's also always belittling, but then he's get humiliated a lot by those people who, you know, he insults every time. But then Dracula says, he calls on the ancient rites. He wants to challenge him for a battle to the death. And then Torgo agrees. Torgo agrees. And Torgo basically explains his origin, that he has battled Attila the Hun, and Dracula was a little intimidated by that because he thought Torgo was a lowly peasant, but he's actually well, not as old, but older than, you know, Dracula thought, and that he's not just merely a peasant. So he was transformed into a vampire as well by, you know, I believe the same person that turned Dracula, because they say we have some similarities, and Dracula says, well, you're a common peasant, we have nothing in common. And so Torgo explains the difference. And he says, well, Torgo, speak, tell me what great wisdom you have to rule us. Then pardon me while I laugh in response. He says, you are a lowly disease. I love that. I love the insults. It's great. And that's what, like I said, you don't see that anymore. These kind of languages. And I'm not offended by it, but, you know, people nowadays are offended about a fly or a color of your hair or your shoe or even the simplest thing what you say. I don't get it. It's just madness nowadays. So so they are going doing the ritual, and they're going to battle each other. And it's a fun battle. It's a great battle. But then Torgo basically cheats because he has some kind of a knife with him, and I believe a silver knife. But Dracula shouts at him that it's against the rules. Well, I'm a little bit new to that because I didn't know vampires had rules when it comes to combat. Well, because Dracula himself is not always a, how do you say, a fair person. He does what it takes to survive, although he has his good moments. So the battling goes on, and I skip a few pages. Yeah, so eventually he gets the upper hand because he is Dracula. And as you can see, it's beautiful, drawn by Gene Colan. And Torgo is no more, and Dracula is supreme and victorious. So the other vampires are just cowering before him, although they are just insulting him a moment ago. And Dracula vows to, said, you leave me alone for now, but you get what yours, I'll deal with you later. And then we have some great writing. Although, what I didn't know also, that Dracula here walks past galleries filled with portraits of the Draculas who has preceded him. I didn't know there was multiple Draculas. I always thought there was just one Dracula. You know, that is his name. I have to look into that. And then, furiously, he shouts at the heavens. He says, all of you gods who have scathed me, I still survive. I swore I would outlast mine enemies, and I have. But at what price? What price, he screams. And then this is going to be great. I rule the scum and the diseased. I am lord over filthy, woe-begotten trash. Is this my awful destiny? To rule those I wouldn't even not deem worthy enough to slay. Gods in heaven and hell. What is nobility is there in ruling the insect? Oh man, that's great, man. I love it. But then Quincy Harker is appearing, and he is vowing to kill Dracula, and he's standing up while Dracula is surprised because Dracula destroyed, in his words, the use of the legs, so he's surprised that he's just standing up. And Quincy says, we are both obsessed with our goals, but there are similarities ends. You are a murderer. You infest people with hatred. You breed distrust. You sow the seeds of the damnation which ripen and bloom in the souls of all those you kill. I ask nothing of others. You ask everything. Again, fantastic writing. And there's a lot of these kind of dialogues that is in this comic. And then Quincy Harker launches forward, and he actually, I mean, look at this face, man. This is so cool drawn. This is purely the face of evil. Fantastic. So he actually managed to stab Dracula with what's the spike from his wheelchair, and that is laced in silver. But he wants to cut off his head and then stuff it with garlic before he can, resurrect it again. So, but before his hands, plunge down and, use this knife to stab him in the heart or whatever, cutting his head, the castle explodes, thus, probably vaporizing both Quincy Harker and Dracula. So basically he's failed to cut off his head, because we all know how vampires work. They always come back for the dead. And so how does the castle explode? Well, it seems, going a little bit back, Quincy Harker, where is it? Just pushed a button, and he has some kind of a, I don't know, explosive device. Skipping a few pages, we see Quincy Harker writing a letter to Rachel Van Helsing and to Frank Drake, wishing them a better life, and that he was dying, and that this was his, his redemption or something for whatever Dracula has done in his life, because he's lost his family, he lost his daughter, he lost everything about it, and he wants to, kill Dracula for one last time. And he probably succeeded. We never know. Well, Dracula lives in future comics, but, in this scene, in this timeline, Dracula's, I don't know, dead. And then we see Rachel in tears, and basically Frank and Rachel hug each other. And then we see a cool splash page of, Dracula, and it says here, his name was Dracula, and his history was a tapestry of terror soon across the ages. And it goes on, and it's fantastic. And we see also here classic Blade here, and the battles, and probably his wife here. It's fantastic. And which brings us to the end of the video. I cannot say good things enough about this comic. It's great. I have also the bundle with the Tomb of Dracula. I have all of them. I believe there's 3 volumes in glorious black and white. So I urge you to get those. Those are really cheap. And if not, you can always get this book somewhere. So guys, that brings me to the end of the video. I hope you like it. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a like. Yeah, that's the same as a thumbs up. And I see you next time. Bye.